Hey everyone, it's the Manga Viewer, and the new My Hero Academia chapter just came out. Well, it came out a couple of hours ago, but I just got off work, so yeah, we're breaking it down, and it was just amazing. It came out exactly as I told you. Like, I'm really just like telling you, every time I do the chapter, it come out exactly as I tell you. So I'll break it like fully down, but before I do, I want to remind you this is a spoiler video, so if you're not caught up with the manga, proceed with your own caution, you have been warned. And if you enjoy my content, feel free to join the channel or thumbs up this video, both help tremendously. Alright, let's kick off. So the chapter actually started off with a flashback to explain the hero's plan and what exactly happened between them when Shinso entered the room. So basically it starts with All Might kind of like talking with the students, and he tells them like All For One is not the type of a character that would go out to search for, you know, the victims and stuff, because he's too much of a coward, which is actually like really kind of like similar or parallel to, you know, to Muzan from Demon Slayer, so it was actually like pretty interesting. So he tells him like we need a plan to lure him in and just kind of like break it out with him. So basically, you know, everyone starts like talking and saying like, hey, okay, so he wants DEKU, he wants One For All, so what we are going to do? And then Momo says that, you know, All For One have a lie detector device or a lie detector quirk installed with him, so we can't just, you know, lie to him and stuff. And then Shinso enters the room, and surprisingly, he have a new costume similar to World Heroes Mission. I feel like the costumes inspired in this chapter are because the new My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission Blu-ray just came out, so I think like Horikoshi wanted to make kind of like a parallel with it. Also, like a lot of people speculated that Deku's new costume is also like kind of like exactly the same as the World Heroes Mission, so I thought it was pretty interesting. It's kind of like a stealth suit and stuff. So yeah, basically he gets in and he's like, yo guys, I just like trained my quirk, I'm OP now, I can do this. So he basically like controls Aoyama's parents' mind, and he kind of like starts talking with All For One. Since, you know, they're not talking like face to face, it's easier to kind of like troll him and lie to him in some sort of way. So it was actually like pretty interesting to see this parallel. A lot of the students seemed to be happy, and they were like about to tell him like, what's your hero name? Which class are you going to be in? Are you going to be in my class and stuff? It's kind of like similar to how the students interact with you when like we're like the new exchange student comes in the school, and everyone was like, hey, sit beside me, let's talk, let's be friends and stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting. Anyway, cut to the chapter, or cut to kind of like a little bit further, where we see Aizawa Sensei and basically Monomoa, the person who actually like kind of like imprisoned the quirks and stuff. The one he kind of like copied the quirk, he does have a copy quirk. We see him like in front of Kurogiri in kind of like the hospital cell, and basically Aizawa asks the copy quirk guy to kind of like, hey man, we want you to have Kurogiri, we want you to kind of like copy his quirk. And he's like, how do you expect me to do that? And Aizawa tells him like, hey man, I'm sorry, but like, you know, I just have one eye, so I can barely fight. And also, like, Kurogiri is not interrogating with me anymore. He doesn't talk with me anymore. So we just have to do that. Monomoa just then teases him, and he's like, don't worry, man, I got this. In a few days, this quirk will be just as perfect as mine. So, yeah, don't worry about it. We then cut to the present, where we see kind of like the Avengers Assemble battle, where all the heroes against all the villains, and everyone's just like ready to battle the crap out of each other. We then see like basically Monomoa just kind of like laughing and stuff, like, hey, I did this, I outdid Class 1A and stuff, kind of like how he always acts. So that was pretty nice. We then see Dabi actually seeing Endeavor, and he just starts laughing. He just loses his freaking mind. He's like, yo, my dad is here, I'm gonna just burst out and stuff. And he basically like about to attack him, he unleashes like a huge chunk of fire. Like, I looked at the panel and I was like, wow, that's a huge chunk of fire. It's obviously that Dabi has become more OP than the war arc itself, so that was pretty interesting. We then see Shoto coming out of the portal, and he just kind of like deflects the whole chunk of fire with a whole chunk of ice, similar to kind of like the heaven piercing wall ice that he does. It was kind of like a similar thing, and it unleashes just like a huge shockwave. So that was also like pretty interesting. It just shows like how much Shoto and Dabi have grown in both those years. Shoto basically then tells Dabi, yo, back down. I'm not gonna let you do what you want, because I'm like your little brother, so I'm not gonna let you do whatever you want, you know? So that was actually pretty interesting as well, just kind of like seeing Shoto matures as well. Also, like, part of that is the conversation that he had with Leda and Bakugo, so that was actually pretty interesting. It was really nice. After that, we actually see All Might on the front lines, well, actually like behind the screens, but he's still on the front lines with Tsukuji, and he's like, unleash System Troy, and or just like System Troy on. There was like multiple, ways to say this word. So anyway, he just says this word, and the same kind of like position or like the same structure of the armor that trapped Hulk in Age of Ultron just appears and traps multiple villains and kind of like separates them from each other. When I read this, I was like, okay, this is going exactly as I told you, because if you have been keeping up with me, you know that I have been telling you that the plan of the heroes will basically to separate the villains, similar to Heroes Rising movie, because if you know that, the plan of DEKU was basically to separate the villains, so that was actually pretty interesting. I really like that Horikoshi likes to bring, the movies and the realism of, like, the real-life situations, so I really like that. He just kind of, like, brings the yin and yang from, like, One Piece, from the author Oda, and he kind of, like, brings the real-life situations, so I really like that. Anyways, they basically just, like, gets trapped in those lockers, and Ultron is like, oh damn, you guys are not doing anything because we can easily break from those in seconds. And then he realizes that, oh, unless their plan is basically to separate us. He was actually like pretty surprised how they got Kurogiri into like, to kind of like make the portals, and then he realized, oh, there's a copy quirk, and I think like in his mind he was like, I gotta get that. That's on my top list. But that was like really interesting. We then see like all the villains dropping like from the Kurogiri portal that the copy quirk guy did, and they just like start sinking in. So that was pretty interesting, and that's how this amazing chapter ends. Basically, it ends like on All Might face at the end. So that was pretty interesting. A lot of people speculating that All Might is going to die. I don't think that's the situation. If All Might dies, like, in this chapters, it will be, like, the speech that he did to Midoriya, the fight at the end when he defeated All For One, all of those will be pointless. Like, why did Horikoshi bothered even to do that, So I feel like, All Might is not going to die, that's obviously. I feel like if we're going to plan out the battles, because that's not the full hero's plan. Like, remember, even in this chapter, we didn't get the full scope of, like, what they wanted to do, They just kind of, like, talked about how the quirk guy, the copy quirk guy, wants to kind of, like, use Kurogiri's quirk, and we just, like, didn't get the strategy of them. So I feel like they are separating them in some sort of places where they are, like, planning some sort of battles so that the advantage will be to the heroes. Obviously, like, we know who the opponents will be like. They want, like, obviously to separate All For One from Shigaraki at least, like, 30-50 miles, and they're gonna try to defeat Shigaraki or All For One at that time, so that's pretty interesting. It was also, like, really interesting to see how Shigaraki is not, like, 100% ready. Like, he didn't even say anything in this chapter, but still, his body was still not ready. Like, something was dripping out of his body, so I don't know what that was. But anyway, I'm really excited to see what's going on. I feel like Dobby versus Shoto is, a certain thing. Maybe Dobby Endeavor versus Shoto, that's also, like, a possibility. Or maybe Shoto can just go toe-to-toe with Dobby while Endeavor and the others can, like, handle Shigaraki and All For One. I feel like that would be pretty interesting. There's just, like, one thing that I didn't kind of, like, but I understand why Horikoshi did it. The thing is, like, All Might is just, like, standing on the sidelines from behind the monitor, kind of, like, just going a leader way, which is a new way of seeing All Might kind of, like, fight in those situations, instead of him just being, like, on the front lines and just, like, fighting with the heroes. I mean, like, he could have done a lot of things. Like, he could have used the, the device that Dave made him. He could have used, Ares' quirk and stuff, but I feel like, he just wanted All Might to kind of, like, be this sort of leader type, because that's what was All Might's weaknesses in, like, when he was, like, in his prime and stuff. He was just, like, a fighting person. He just fights, he just gets the job done. So seeing him kind of, like, communicating with the others and planning this sort of, like, amazing plan is just something new, and he was actually, like, trending today, so that was pretty awesome. Anyway, this is the full chapter. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know if you want me to kind of, like, break down other chapters such as, like, Black Clover and One Piece, except One Piece, like, the toy situation, what's going on. So if you want to do, just, let me know, because they're, like, from the same magazine, so I can just read them when they come out. But yeah, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I have been the Manga Viewer, and I will see you next time. Johnny Minasan.